This is the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 and this is the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, both of these are Samsung's latest wearables this year, packing in all of their latest technology. Now, the Galaxy Watch Ultra costs $270 to $320 more than the Galaxy Watch 7. But which one should you really be buying if you were looking for a smartwatch in 2024? Now, to find out, I've been using both of these wearables for the last few weeks, and in this video, I'll compare the design, the specs, features, heart rate sensor accuracy, real-life battery lives, GPS accuracy, and much more, so you can make an informed decision on whether to avoid the Galaxy Watch 7 this year and splash your extra cash on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, before we get into the detailed comparison, I just wanted to mention that the Galaxy Watch Ultra only comes in this LTE variant, and you can still use this as a standard Bluetooth and Wi-Fi watch without an eSIM. But the Galaxy Watch 7 comes in two versions, which is the standard Bluetooth version as well as an LTE variant. Okay, so let's compare the design, specs and features of both of these wearables. Now, I'm a really big fan of the Galaxy Watch 7's design. It feels smooth, sleek, well designed, and an absolute joy to wear and use day to day. And in my full in-depth review of the Galaxy Watch 7, I mentioned that the first thing that came to my mind when I unboxed it was the word polished. Now, the Galaxy Watch Ultra, on the other hand, is a bit of a chunky thing to wear day to day. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a really premium design, and that casing is made of titanium, which is more durable than the aluminium casing on the Galaxy Watch 7. It's just the shape of the casing. It hasn't grown on me as much as I thought it would, and I feel like there were two Samsung designers who couldn't agree on either a rectangular design like an Apple Watch Ultra or a classic Galaxy 7 circular design. So they had to meet halfway house on this squircle kind of design. So that's just something that I personally find weird, but you might be someone who actually prefers and likes this kind of design. It's completely subjective and personal. Now, I will say that the casing on the Galaxy Watch Ultra kind of protects the display because the display is sunk into the casing here, whereas on the Galaxy Watch 7 the display is completely exposed to anything you throw at it. So from a durability perspective, the case design on the Galaxy Watch Ultra is really good and superior to that on the Galaxy Watch 7. Now, both watches are running a new 3nm processor from Samsung and have 32GB of internal storage, so there's plenty of space for all sorts of apps, playlists from Spotify and so on. Now, the display on both watches is an AMOLED touchscreen that's plenty colorful and bright, which has been amazing to use outdoor as well as indoors. Now, the peak brightness levels on the Galaxy Watch 7 can go up to 2000 nits, whereas on the Galaxy Watch Ultra it can go up to 3000 nits. So this is actually the highest peak brightness level of any Galaxy wearable till date, and in terms of resolution, both of them are largely similar, and I've had absolutely no issues with low resolution imagery on both of these watches. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't noticed much difference between the two day to day. The 2000 nits brightness on the Galaxy Watch 7 is plenty bright, and I wouldn't pick the Ultra just for that specific bump up in peak brightness levels. And speaking of displays, both displays also boast sapphire crystal glass, which is normally found in many rugged sports watches. Now, both of these watches have IP68 ingress protection for dust as well as water, but the Galaxy Watch 7 only has 5 atmospheres of water resistance, which is good for around 50 meters of water depth, whereas the Galaxy Watch Ultra has 10 atmospheres of water resistance, which is actually good for 100 meters of water depth. So you can go deeper in water with the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, both of these watches have also been tested against the US military standard for ruggedness in various conditions, but the Galaxy Watch Ultra goes a step further, where it has been tested for a larger temperature range as well as a higher altitude of up to 9,000 meters. So if you were into mountaineering, this is going to be more durable and will survive better than the Galaxy Watch 7. And at the back of both of these watches, you've got Samsung's proprietary bioactive suite of sensors, which Samsung say have been upgraded since the last generation. So I'll get to the comparison of heart rate sensor accuracy of both of these watches later on in this video. Overall, in terms of design, specs and durability, I think that the Galaxy Watch Ultra is more durable than the Galaxy Watch 7. Okay, so let's talk about the user interface on both of these wearables, and both watches actually come with Google's latest Wear OS 5, and the software speed and touch input has been buttery smooth, and the colors, animations and text work really well on both of these watches. They've never crashed or become unusable during my use. Now the user interface on both of these watches is really simple, with a combination of touch inputs on the touchscreen as well as the buttons. Now the main difference between the two of them is that the Galaxy Watch Ultra actually comes with a third button, which is the central accented button here, and that can be used as a shortcut to access sport profiles and activities, and it can also be used to transition between different sports if you're in a multi-sport activity like a triathlon or a duathlon. Now both of these watches also have gestures such as double pinch, shaking your wrist, and knocking gestures, using which you can perform various functions like answering calls, taking photos, dismissing notifications, controlling music, and so on. Now there's a massive library of watch faces for both of these watches, and on the Galaxy Watch Ultra you can get some special watch faces like this one, where you've got a live compass built straight into the watch face, and honestly you can spend ages. There's just so many amazing options of watch faces for both of these watches. Now let's talk about the smart features and functionalities of both of these watches. Now given that both of them are running Google's Wear OS, there's a massive focus on apps as well as smart features, and both watches have Google's Play Store pre-installed in them, and the type of apps that you can download are largely similar for both of these watches. There's also Galaxy AI on both watches, and this does things like estimate an energy score when you wake up in the morning, do some more number crunching for your sleep, and so on. And you can even make phone calls from both of these watches. I mean, they actually have a keypad, speaker, and microphone that you can use to speak to others. Now overall, both of these watches have the largest suite of apps as well as smart features out of any Android based wearable this year. Okay, let's compare all of the things that both of these wearables can track from a health, performance, and recovery perspective. Now both watches are packed with just so many different fitness activities, and you've got the usual stuff like running, elliptical training, weightlifting, yoga, etc. But the major difference between them is that the Galaxy Watch Ultra can track multi-sport activities like triathlons, duathlons, aquathlons, and so on. And you can even create your own custom multi-sport activity here, which you can't do on the Galaxy Watch 7. And this is where the Galaxy Watch Ultra starts differentiating itself as a sports watch. Now on both watches, you can also create custom activities in the Samsung Health app and then load them onto the watch, which is really cool. Now, whilst the list of activities in both of these wearables is commendable here, I actually think that Samsung have forgotten to add a hit activity or a hit timer on both of these watches. It's a strange omission, especially given that Samsung have put all of that effort in adding in individual exercises like arm curls, bench presses as singular activities. So it's quite strange and weird, to be honest. Now, if you like seeing specific performance metrics when working out, there's a ton of customization options for the activity data fields in both these watches, and you can pick and choose the layout, where to put what metric, and set up multiple data pages as well for certain activities like running. You can even set targets for activities which could be time-based, calories expended, distance, etc., which is good to see in both of these watches. Now, in addition to activities, both watches also track similar health metrics like sleep, all-day blood oxygen levels, stress levels, actual skin temperature, not just variations like other Android watches, breathing rates, and then use all of this data to produce some really good insight and feedback within the Samsung Health app. Now, both watches have ECG sensors, blood pressure monitoring, as well as bioelectrical impedance analysis sensors that can measure your body composition. So, with the exception that the Galaxy Watch Ultra can track multi-sport profiles, the hardware for measuring and tracking things in both of these watches are largely similar. Now, when it comes to emergency SOS and fall detection, both of these watches have that, and the only difference is that the Galaxy Watch Ultra has this really loud siren. So if I press the central button for more than 5 seconds, you'll see there's a countdown that starts, and this siren can, let's give it a chance. That's really loud. So that siren can go up to 180 meters from wherever you've fallen or wherever you need support, and it's useful in attracting attention as well as support if you're stuck in a remote area. So the Galaxy Watch 7 doesn't have that loud siren. Okay, let's talk about real life battery tests for both of these wearables. Now, Samsung claim that the Galaxy Watch 7 should last for up to 40 hours on a single charge, which is just under 2 days. And they say that the Galaxy Watch Ultra should last for up to 80 hours or just over 3 days on a single charge. Now, I don't believe any manufacturer claims around battery lives. They're always tested in really strict conditions, and manufacturers put all of these caveats into how you should be using these wearables to maximize battery lives. But on this channel, you know that I test these wearables exactly the way that you would and try to maximize their potential as sports, fitness, as well as health tracking wearables. Now, looking at the Galaxy Watch 7, it lost around 14% battery every night whilst I was sleeping, where the blood oxygen measurements were also on, and around 8% during activities, which included a mixture of indoor training at the gym, as well as using the watch's GPS for outdoor running. Now, the Galaxy Watch Ultra, on the other hand, lost around 21% battery every night and 11% during workouts. So it's a bit worse than the Galaxy Watch 7. Now, overall, the Galaxy Watch 7 has been averaging between 29 and 35 hours, which is just around 1.5 days on a single charge. And the Galaxy Watch Ultra has been averaging 48 hours or 2 days with fairly heavy usage, and around 65 hours, which is just around 2.5 days with light usage. Now, both of these watches aren't anywhere close to what Samsung have been claiming, but if you turn certain things off like blood oxygen measurements as well as stress tracking, you might be able to get a bit more out of these watches. But in any case, expect around 1 day more with the Galaxy Watch Ultra compared to the Galaxy Watch 7. Now, I also ran an extensive power saving mode test on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, overall, the Galaxy Watch Ultra lasted for around 80 hours or just over 3 days on power saving mode, which again is not quite the same as the 100 hours being claimed by Samsung for this watch in power saving mode. But I did manage to squeeze in an outdoor 5K run as well as an indoor cycling session during that period. So it's not that bad compared to what Samsung is claiming. But do you know what? I wouldn't really recommend for anyone to use that power saving mode on the Galaxy Watch Ultra if you were just using it day to day, because you don't really get any form of sleep tracking data, heart rate variability, energy score, any form of recovery tracking or health tracking in the Samsung Health app if you use the power saving mode. I mean, I'd only recommend for anyone to use that power saving mode if you were going on a multi-day hike or a multi-day trip where things like background heart rate measurements, sleep tracking might not be important to you, but you can still use the GPS tracking in power saving mode. So that's something to keep in mind around battery life of the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Okay, let's compare the heart rate sensor accuracy of the bioactive sensors on the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 as well as the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, you might think that both of these watches having the same optical heart rate sensors will perform very similarly, right? Now, hold on to that thought, because I was also keen to test both of these out for outdoor running, indoor cycling, strength training at the gym, as well as outdoor activities. And to benchmark my heart rate readings, I've used Polar's H10 chest strap, which uses ECG to record heart rate data, and it's often considered as the gold standard for heart rate measurement. Now, in all of the heart rate charts that you see, anything in blue represents the heart rate readings from the Polar H10 ECG chest strap, which is the benchmark here. Anything in orange represents heart rate readings from the Galaxy Watch Ultra, and anything from green represents heart rate readings from the Galaxy Watch 7. Now, looking at indoor cycling, both watches actually performed really well and had a really good match with the ECG chest strap. And they managed to pick up almost all of the peaks as well as troughs in my cycling session. There was just this one area where there was a difference of around 17 beats per minute between the chest strap and the Galaxy Watch 7. But overall, it's a really good start for both of these wearables. Now, looking at outdoor running, where there's a bit more movement of the arms as well as the wrist, but it's still one of the easier activities for watches like this to record. And the Galaxy Watch Ultra picked up the rise in my heart rate really well. It was almost in sync with the chest strap, but the Galaxy Watch 7 was slightly slow right at the start, with the difference of around 25 beats per minute at one point. But as the run went on, both watches picked up almost all of the peaks and troughs. There was just a difference of around 10 to 18 beats per minute for the Galaxy Watch Ultra in some instances, and I think this was when my arms were starting to get really sweaty towards the end of the run, and the bulky casing on the Galaxy Watch Ultra just started to move a little bit around my wrist. But overall, both watches picked up most intervals in my runs, so no major issues and largely comparable to each other. Now, looking at strength training at the gym, this is something where most wearables start to struggle because there's quite a lot of movement of the arms, the wrist, as well as flexions between the muscles, as well as the optical heart rate sensor. And looking at the heart rate readings, you can see that the Galaxy Watch Ultra actually performs really well. It managed to keep up with most peaks and troughs during this chest and triceps workout. The Galaxy Watch 7 on the other hand was not that far from the Galaxy Watch Ultra and the Polar H10 chest strap. It just at times seemed like it was struggling to keep up with the chest strap, and there was a lag in picking up the rapid rises and drops in my heart rate. And I was actually surprised at this one part here where I just dropped the weights and rested for a bit. And it's moments like these that throw wrist-based wearables completely off, but the Galaxy Watch Ultra actually stayed locked on and was just 1 to 2 beats per minute away from the chest strap. The Galaxy Watch 7 though was off by around 25 beats per minute and struggled to pick up that rapid decline in my heart rate. Now overall, the accuracy of the Galaxy Watch Ultra is better than the Galaxy Watch 7 when it comes to strength training, which is actually quite surprising as I normally see bulky watches like these start to struggle over lighter watches like the Galaxy Watch 7. So that's quite an interesting finding that the Galaxy Watch Ultra did better than the Watch 7 for strength training. Okay, so let's compare the GPS and location tracking accuracy of both these watches. And both of these wearables come with dual band antenna systems built into them that can latch onto multiple satellite systems. Now, one key difference between both of these watches is that on the Galaxy Watch Ultra, you can actually load GPX or TCX routes for offline navigation and offline mapping, whereas you can't do that on the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7. Now, looking at the standard outdoor city run, the red track represents the Galaxy Watch 7 and the green track represents the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, both watches did fairly well. They tracked me on the correct side of the road that I ran on, and they still kept my position locked on throughout this tree coverage and stayed with me even when I went a bit deeper into the city with some shops and buildings on either side of narrow roads. Now, I was also wearing Polar's Grit X2 Pro, which is a premium outdoor sports watch and has a really good dual band antenna that I tested heavily in my full in-depth review. And the Grit X2 Pro's track is shown in blue, and both the Galaxy Watch 7 as well as the Galaxy Watch Ultra performed very similarly to the Grit X2 Pro, which is quite impressive to see. Now, next up is a hike in a gorge with some really dense vegetation and cliffs on either side, and a couple of tunnels to really up the challenge for both the Galaxy Watch Ultra and the Galaxy Watch 7. Now, the hike started off fine, actually better than the Grit X2 Pro here at the start, where both Galaxy Watches were solidly locked onto a location and also did fairly well in an area where I thought both watches would struggle, as there's quite a bit of tree coverage and cliffs on either side of our route. Both of these watches tracked our route fairly close to the Polar Grit X2 Pro's route. There was just this one point in an open area where there wasn't any overhead tree coverage as such, but the Galaxy Watch 7 just went a bit off track compared to the actual route, whereas the Galaxy Watch Ultra stayed locked onto us. Now, inside these two tunnels, both watches were solidly locked onto our position, and you can see they're almost on top of the Grit X2 Pro's track. Now, in my tests, the dual band antenna in both of these watches performed really well. I mean, I did my best to throw them completely off by taking them to a gorge with some steep cliffs on either side of our route, as well as some dense tree coverage. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the Samsung Health app, and whichever wearable you go for between the two, the interface and feedback is going to be exactly the same. Now, the interface here is clean and shows you all of the health metrics measured by these watches in a bit more detail. Activities also show up with the same level of detail for both watches, and for running there's actually a really good amount of information that I wasn't expecting on top of the usual heart rate and pace charts. So there's things like symmetry when running, ground contact time, flight time, regularity, and even body stiffness. Now, whichever wearable you go for between the two of them, you'll get an amazing experience with the Samsung Health app. So then, is it really worth spending the extra cash on the Galaxy Watch Ultra and avoiding the Galaxy Watch 7 altogether? Now, I personally think that the Galaxy Watch Ultra is Samsung's best wearable till date. But you see, this watch serves a specific purpose. It's now blurring the lines between a classic smartwatch, which the Galaxy Watch 7 would fall under, and established sports watch brands like Garmin and Polar. Now, if you want a sports watch that can track multi-sport profiles like triathlons, aquathlons, and duathlons, has amazing durability, can last for slightly longer on a single charge than the Galaxy Watch 7, and has Google's Wear OS built into it, then I think that the Galaxy Watch Ultra is absolutely worth buying, as long as you can digest the fact that this can last for 2 to 2.5 days in normal mode. Now, if you don't care about multi-sport profiles like triathlons and aquathlons, I think that the Galaxy Watch 7 still packs a decent punch as long as you can accept the mediocre battery life in this watch. Alright, so I just wanted to say thanks to all of the subscribers to this channel and to new viewers. Don't be shy from pressing that subscribe button for more upcoming reviews as well as comparisons just like this, especially an epic comparison between the Galaxy Ring as well as the Aura Ring. See you in the next one.